like to talk to you now about after the game. How do we handle as parents after the game? You know, as Bruce Brown went back over 30 years of asking student athletes about their experience, the good and the bad. Usually some of the best memories for the kids were during the game. Hey, practice was over, we get to play now. They enjoyed the fun of it, the joy of it, the excitement of it, the being with their friends, the competition, etc. That's among their favorite parts. Ironically, on the opposite side for the parents, during the game is usually the toughest part. They're tense, they're anxious, they're nervous, they're running through the emotional gamut of watching their kid play while we've just talked about they're supposed to model poise and confidence. That's a tough challenge for parents emotionally to model poise and confidence. So during the game is usually the most fun and exciting time for the kids, the most nerve-wracking for the parents, typically. But the opposite side now, when you talk to the kids about their worst memory, they go back over the years and think about the worst memory they had as a student athlete, as a young kid growing up playing youth sports, all the way through high school sports, etc. What is it? It's after the game. Specifically, it's the car ride home after the game. Why? Why? Because mom and dad typically want to analyze everything after the game and talk through everything that went wrong and feel like they need a coach and say what you did well, what your teammates didn't do so well, what the coach did and didn't do so well, the officials didn't do so well, particularly didn't do so well with the officials. But let's come back and think about this. After an emotional game, win or lose, no matter what happened during the game, what do the children really want? What do the kids really want? They want time and space. Let me tell you a quick and yet really important story in this regard. Rob Miller, who he's given this presentation well over 200 times now, was in a suburb of Kansas City giving this presentation, and then a couple weeks later went to the NAIA tournament downtown Kansas City at Municipal Auditorium. He's so used to being around people and people coming up to him after presentations that he's a former college basketball coach like myself, wanted to just hide away, grab his Mountain Dew, grab some popcorn, go up into the upper deck and just enjoy some college basketball. So he did that. Went up into the middle of the upper deck where there's open seats all over the place and wanted to just sit down and watch a little bit of college basketball by himself, take a breather and get away from it all. He did. And after he got to his seat, sat down, open space around him, and a dad comes and sits in the seat next to him. So Rob gets a little smile on his face, and the gentleman turned to him and said, "I just want to come over to say thank you." And Rob said, "And for what?" And the gentleman said, "Because you've changed the relationship between myself and my daughter in a wonderful way." He said, "I tried what you suggested at your presentation because I was there a couple weeks ago when you gave the parents' presentation." And Rob said, "Well, what exactly do you mean?" He said, "Well, let me tell you my circumstance." The man got up and was all animated about his personal story with his daughter. And he said, "Honestly, Rob," he said, "I was that guy. I was that dad that you were talking to. And it just hit me as you were talking to me." And I think this can relate to you as parents as well. His story was very typical of many, many parents, that it's their child. They love that child. They're emotionally attached to their child. So every play, every practice, every game, the dad is analyzing everything that's going on, feeling like he's got to coach and tell his daughter what she did well and what she didn't do so well and how she can improve. So when they get in the car after practice and after game, the dad would just start into it, that you need to work on this and work on that, and here's how you can get better. You got to focus more here and do this more there. And after a while, it was just numbing to the daughter. That car ride home became the worst 15 minutes of that daughter's day without the father even knowing it. But the father recognized it when Rob Miller spoke and talked to him. You may be able to relate with this. So the father said, "I tried what you said." He said, "I got in the car and I didn't even turn on the radio. But what I didn't do is I didn't start into it. Matter of fact, I didn't say anything. Just turned on the car and started driving. Looked over and my daughter was obviously noticing that I didn't say anything. And after a few moments, he said, I turned to her as I'm driving along and looked at her and said, 'You know, I just love to watch you play.' And resumed driving. And he said, I looked out of the corner of my eye a couple seconds later, there's a tear running down my daughter's face. And she turned to me after a moment, as I continued to be silent, and said, 'Dad, that's one of the nicest things you've ever said to me.' Think about that. All he said was, I love to watch you play. Well, don't you as parents, don't you just love to watch your son or daughter play? At the end of the day, isn't that what it's about? You enjoy watching them play, they enjoy playing. But you get wrapped up emotionally into it that you want to explain to them what they can do to do better. That's the coach's job. After a competition, they want time and they want space. The higher the level of competition, the more competitive your child, the more time and the more space. Put yourself in their circumstance, or put yourself in your job circumstance. As soon as you leave the office, do you want the boss getting in the car with you and telling you everything you did wrong that day? Probably not. It's the same thing with your child. Let them know that you love them, whether they did great or didn't do so great. You love them unconditionally. Unconditional love. Unconditional love doesn't mean you love them when they play great or their team wins, and not so much when they didn't play great or they didn't win. The exception to this rule, and you still need to be sensitive to time and space, is if they exhibited some behavior during the competition that would not be acceptable at home. Profanity, physical, etc. If they did something that you wouldn't accept at home, that needs to be addressed. Other than that, if it comes to something tactical, something to do with the game, let it go. As parents, you don't need to coach. Choose your role. You don't need a coach. They need time and they need space. Save your analysis. At the end of the day, as a parent, be a parent. Be a dad, be a mom, be a guardian. You don't need to be the coach. They need you to love them unconditionally. At the end of the day, you want to be a confidence builder, not a confidence cutter. Very important to lift them up and not pull them down. Athletics are supposed to be a great experience for your child. Think about this. We said earlier, 70% of kids quit sports by the time they're 13 because it's not fun anymore and because that not fun came from mom and dad, guardian, or coach. You don't want to be that mom and dad or coach or guardian that drives your son or daughter, your child, away from athletics. Be a confidence builder. Remind them that you love them. Say things like, I love to watch you play. Say things like, I love how you help out your teammates. I love how you pick them up whether things went well or didn't go well. I love how you encourage your teammates. You're the glue to that team. Be that confidence builder. We said that 70% quit by the time they're 12. Let's take that a step further. By the time they finish their high school experience, boy or girl, regardless of sport, typically about 97% are done their athletic experience. They're 18 years old and that's it. 97%, think about that. Odds are very good with your child. Their experience is going to last through their high school and that's going to be it. Don't you as parents want to make it as great of an experience as you can for your child? And I think the answer is yes. That's why you're here, that's why you're listening to this, is because you care about your child. Let's help make it an uplifting scenario, a scenario where you help build confidence in your child, where you model poise and confidence. And I want to finish on something that's really sensitive to me in a couple of ways. As I was a student athlete and a coach, that this really hits home with me, and that's this. Your child's self-worth should not be attached to how well they perform. Think about that. It's very easy for them to feel their self-worth directly attached to their performance or whether their team won or lost. Love them unconditionally. I say that's sensitive to myself. I was so attached to sports as a kid growing up that if I had a good basketball game, I felt good about myself. If I played well in football, if I went 16 for 20 and our team won and I threw for a bunch of yards, threw for some touchdowns, I felt pretty good. Flip side is, if I didn't perform well because I was highly competitive, then my self-worth, I felt awful. Regardless of the sport, I'm highly competitive, I felt awful. As a parent, please make sure you don't attach the self-worth. Kids made comments to Bruce over the years to the effect that they felt like their self-worth in their parents' eyes, their parents wouldn't talk to them much if they didn't play much or if they didn't play well after a game. They fell silent. They didn't know what to say. Really important. And along these lines, parents, when you're talking to your children after the game, you don't need to talk about the game to begin with. When that time does arise, after you've given them time and space, think before you speak. A couple things you don't want to talk about with your children. You don't want to talk about coaching decisions, whether you thought the coach should have played zone when they played man, you thought they passed when they should have run, you thought they should have pulled a different goalkeeper. You don't want to talk about who's good and who's bad on the team, evaluate other players' performances in front of your child, the coach's performance in front of your child, and express your opinions about how bad the officials were in front of your child. What are you teaching your child if that's the case? If all you are is critical of the coach, critical of the official, critical of other players on the team, just show your child that you love them and you care about them and you love to watch them play and you're proud of them. Be a confidence builder. Your job is not to critique every other aspect of the game. Save the analysis. Enjoy your game. Enjoy your children. Be a confidence builder. Lift your children up. This is their experience, not yours. This is their experience. As a parent, learn to sit back and enjoy it. Learn to love to watch them play. Make it a great experience for them. Thank you so much for watching this parent's presentation from ProActive Coaching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope these observations that Bruce Brown has had over his 30-plus years involved in athletics has been very helpful to you as parents. Again, if you don't agree with something that was said today, sleep on it. If you still don't agree with it in a couple days, shoot me an email or give me a call. We can talk about it at that point. But again, remember, this came from the kids, not from myself, not from Bruce Brown, but it came from the kids. So please keep that in mind. Thank you so much. Take care.